Hi, investigators. Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with this week's news of what's been happening in the investigation industry in Australia. Yes, this is the place where we get excited about taking statements and writing reports, which nobody else in the world gets excited about except people who subscribe to this channel and watch this weekly report. It came up this week in one of our social networking groups about report writing. An investigator posted in there that he would like to get help with writing reports. Now, writing reports, of course, is one of the big challenges in investigations. And if you master it, that's what makes you the go-to investigator in your area, because you'll be doing your reports in a better manner than other people. You'll be doing them quicker and moving through them quicker. But what you must understand is a report is just a report. When you do the Australian Security Academy course, you will find during that program, you'll have a person who's pictured in this photograph here who comes into our course, and she tells you all about report writing. Now, report writing, yes, it seems a daunting task. You're going to be writing a complex bullying harassment report. It's going to take you 9 hours to write, but you're going to only charge 3 hours for actually writing it. That's just the nature of our industry and what happens. But when Monica comes into our programs and she tells you how to set up your report writing, how to separate your reading of your collected documents and statements and photographic schedules and your billing, she gets you to understand how to reduce that time and also how to charge for that time accordingly in those areas. So report writing, yes, it can be arduous, but it's not impossible. And you can, if you follow Monica's guidance, which is in our course when she teaches in the program, learn how to do it appropriately. And pretty soon, as one of our training programs, we'll have that on video so you can see that when you're studying the Australian Security Academy course. The other thing that came up out of last week, I got several emails from people wanting to know what loss adjusters do. So I got my script writers to come up with a scenario, and that was really good of them. One of the secrets you don't know about me, I'm actually from Queenstown. Now, you probably haven't noticed that with my accent, because I can say 66 like a professional, but there are some words that I just cannot say. And they put that word in this scenario. So you're going to cringe all the way through this. I do apologise. It's my accent from Queenstown. I visit Queenstown every 2 years. The locals there can't understand a word I say. So let's go in and have a look at what a loss adjuster does.
Egbert is a retired glaciologist. He likes to live around glaciers, so he decides he's going to build his retirement home just in front of New Zealand's largest glacier, where he can stand on his duck and look out at the glacier and bring his friends around, and they can all stand on their duck and look at the glacier as it's moving along, like glaciologists like to do. Then, as luck would have it, one day a bit of the glacier breaks off and slides down the hill and chops off Egbert's duck. So Egbert is distraught about this. He's got friends coming around to look at that glacier, so he puts in a claim to his insurer about his replacement duck. So what he does, he finds out that Tammy O'Shanter has been sent from Dunedin on the case about Egbert's duck. She arrives there and she sets about investigating the bit of glacier that's broken off and caused the damage to his house. So Tammy takes some measurements and she takes some photographs and she interviews Egbert about when it happened, and she takes an aerial view with her drone. Then she makes up a little pictorial map of where north is and how it's not to scale, and where the glacier is and where Egbert's residence was. So she checks all that out. She checks with the Building Commission and the Earthquake Commission about the approval for Egbert's building, and all that's fine. Then she punches into her iPad exactly what happened, and all the choices are there. The green choice that she puts in, that goes into the iPad, and That formulates part of her report. So then she sends in the report to the insurer with the 3 quotes to the builders, and then everybody's happy. Egbert is, Tam is, the insurer is, everyone's chakras are aligned, and that's what a loss adjuster does.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if your name's Tammy O'Shanter, you're going to be from Dunedin. I mean, if you're from Wellington, that would be stupid, wouldn't it? So that's how loss adjusting works. Now, our job of the week actually involves this week one of the world's largest loss adjusting firms. So let's have a look at our job of the week. And here it is. It's Crawford's in Toowoomba want liability investigators to undertake desktop investigations. And they're not asking for any loss adjusting qualifications or experience, and they're not asking for any investigation qualifications or experience. I guess they're going to teach you all that in-house or whatever, or they're going to discover, your qualifications, your credentials during the application process. But they are seeking liability investigators in the agricultural industry. Now, that raises the question, what are you going to do as a liability investigator in the agricultural industry? Well, it could be relating to people injured by equipment, so they sue the manufacturers of the equipment, or the equipment wasn't maintained properly, so they sue their employer, or it could be there were no proper training in the use of that equipment and they got injured, so they sue their employer or whatever. So let's have a look at a particular case in agricultural liability that actually happened in Queensland.
As life is going longer, I try to
So that's one particular example was works compensation investigation, but still liability investigation. So Crawford's, it's on the Australian Security Academy's Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigator jobs page. This is what it looks like. That's what it's called. If you haven't joined that, you're missing out on dozens of opportunities in private, government and corporate investigations that are put up there each month. So I don't put them all up there. I only put up about 30% of them because I'm just too busy to do that. But that's what the picture on the heading of the Facebook page looks like. It's called Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigation Jobs. And you will see there the Crawford's job for liability investigators. Now, they reckon it's it's Australia-wide, so they're based in Toowoomba. They'll be handling desktop investigations, maybe from accidents or liability issues that happen in Western Australia or Northern, even Tasmania, who knows? But everything's explained in the advertisement. You can see that on our webpage. So take advantage of it. I mean, it's spoon-fed. It's there for you to have a look at. When you apply for jobs like these, you learn something every time you apply. So certainly, if you don't get it, ask for feedback and see where it takes you from there. Our movie of the week this week. This is one of my all-time favourites. If you are an undercover worker or a surveillance operative, this is the movie. It's understated. It's not rushed. There's no dramatic effects of blowing things up and that sort of thing all the way through it to just make it interesting. This is interesting. It's a cinematic masterpiece. It's filmed in 1972. Let's have a look at our movie of the week.
Made in 1972, this movie, The Day of the Jackal, is an intriguing thriller about the attempted assassination of President de Gaulle of France and how the spy is hired to undertake that project. It's really good scenes throughout this movie, including parts where he negotiates the price, parts where moles are found within the Secret Service in France and how they do it. It's really interesting. There's some light moments of humour in there, but it really is edge of the seat stuff as the assassin moves towards his target, President de Gaulle, crossing through borders throughout Europe. They're chasing him. He knows they're after him, and he's one step ahead of them all the way with how he disguises himself, how he smuggles his weapon across the border. This is really great undercover work stuff. So if you enjoy a spy thriller, don't miss Day of the Jackal. Every scene in this movie is relevant to the work of a private, government or corporate investigator. How they disguise themselves, how they stay ahead of the people that are after them, how they smuggle things. This is really interesting stuff. This is the first movie in the ones that we've reviewed where every scene in the movie is relevant. The other movies we've reviewed, yes, they've had some great scenes and some good ideas, but one part here, one part there. This movie, all the way through it, there's something of interest to an investigator that you can see done cinematically in fiction, but with well-researched and relevant work. So if you've got a spare time this winter, a couple of hours in an afternoon on a Saturday when it's rainy or a Sunday, don't miss Day of the Jackal. Yes, it is 48 years old, but it is an intriguing movie and it'll have you on the edge of the seat with a twist at the end that's unbelievable, but very enjoyable.
And you will giggle all the way through it because everybody smokes. And when they go to try and identify who their potential assassin is in the records of MI5 or where it is, they go into this massive great warehouse where they have to go through all the paper records. There's no computers. This is a really good movie. The guy in charge of chasing after the assassin is a pigeon fancier, and he's introduced in his pigeon loft. So this it's real days gone by stuff. Okay, so moving on, we had an issue last week come up where people were applying at ACLA, the Industry Association for Loss Adjusters, and they were having their applications rejected by the person in charge there of applications to become a member of ACLA. And the applications were rejected on the basis that the applicant didn't hold a particular unit of competency from the training package that the ANZIIF deliver. Now that's okay, that's their rules, but there was no appeals process and there was no information given. So let's just have a look at how it should have been handled and how it should have been worked. So what we've got is on the left-hand side, the ANZIIF's diploma and the nationally recognised one on the right-hand side. What happens when you change names like that? You have to have a written agreement. That an RTO must have a written agreement with the third party, which is ACLA, in relation to how they're going to deliver what the units are and what the units are called, because there's no nationally recognised unit numbers on them. So that third party agreement must outline that. The second document that they must have is a training and assessment strategy. Now that training and assessment strategy must detail what units match what units, how they're mapped to the other units and how that all works. So when you get your application to join ACLA knocked back by ACLA without any information on how it's supposed to go, you're being funneled into another RTO to pay them to do a unit of competency that's going to satisfy ACLA's application process. Now, that doesn't make sense when they have to have that training agreement between the two parties, ANZIIF and ACLA, and they have to identify what those units are and how they map and match to the nationally recognised qualification, because the units they're requesting are not nationally recognised. So in order for them to be accepted by ASQA and on a statement of results with matching certificate for the diploma issued, they've got to be documented. Now, so what you do, if you've been knocked back, you write to the person who knocked you back and you say, look, there's got to be an agreement between ANZIIF and you in relation to what those units are and how they map to each other. Now, I hold that, but can you show me that agreement? That agreement is compulsory. They have to have it, and it has to be registered with ASQA. Now, if it's not, and they've been teaching and assessing this for 4.5 years, there's going to be serious issues with ASQA and that agreement. Then also that training and assessment strategy must detail. Now, you can't ask for a training and assessment strategy because that's their confidential information at the RTO, but it must be there. So if there's no third-party agreement, which you can ask for and see how they've mapped it, well, you can go and complain to ASQA and say, well, I'm in the dark here. I've done this nationally recognised qualification. I've been rejected in my application to join an industry association. They won't give me information on it. Maybe it doesn't exist. I don't know. So stand up for yourself. Don't take no for an answer and pursue that application. Once again, people, it's been an amazingly busy week in investigations in Australia. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again next Friday where we've got an interesting take involving Patrick Flynn, the training manager of the Australian Security Academy, and our movie of the week. We'll see you next week. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy.